In our continuing exploration of the different types of intimacy that we have come across through Choose Therapy's post of 10 types of intimacy, we're talking about creative intimacy. And what is that? And is it even actually a real intimacy? I'm going to talk about this week on episode 247 of The Relaxed Male. This is The Relaxed Male, a show that comes to you each week helping men to remove the nice guy from their life, so they can actually live their life on their terms. Join the host, certified coach Brian Goodwin, as he helps men step out of their heads and become free from the thoughts that bind them. Hey man, hello and welcome to The Relaxed Male. I am your host Brian, and I want to say thanks so much for taking the time out of your day and coming in and listen. And actually, if you're watching right now, we are actually live. We do this live over on TikTok as of the moment, just playing around with it, seeing what it's like. But also, if you happen to have a current podcasting 2.0 compliant podcast, a modern podcasting app, you can actually be listening to this driving down the road. We are actually live streaming to the to different podcast apps like Podcast Guru, Podverse, Fountain. Are examples of some of these new current and modern podcasting apps. If you want to find one, you can always go over to newpodcastapp.com. And there you would end up seeing a big old list. You can actually go through and choose the apps according to whatever operating system you use. If you're an Android, you got Android's apps out there. I think Podcast Guru is one that works on both platforms, both Apple and Android. So either way, that's a great one. It's not quite my daily driver, but it is a very, very, very close second. There's just a couple of little things that probably need to be changed up, and I'll definitely jump over to it and use it all the time. But because I'm somebody who, I know Adam Curry would absolutely hate it, but I do like to listen to about 1.5 speed to a lot of my apps, a lot of my shows, because I listen to a lot of shows. So anyhow. So we got that. And so if you're wanting to be able to listen to the show while driving down the road or doing dishes or doing something else, dude, you can. It's amazing. It's awesome. I enjoy it. I listen to a couple of shows live as they stream. So, but anyhow, so this week we're talking about creative intimacy. What in the world is creative intimacy? Is it even an actual intimacy? And I mean, we're going off of all just my thoughts on what it is. Is it actually a type of intimacy or not? I don't know. I throw out what I've learned about it, kind of give you my insights about it, and you choose. Yeah, you can say, hey, that's a real one, or it's not. And it's up to me, and it's up to you, and it's up to everybody else, because, that we have our own way of looking at stuff. So anyhow, what started this is that I came across a article over on a site called Choose Therapy, and they were talking about the 10 different types of intimacy, which really just kind of blew my mind, because we know about physical. Most of us know that there's an emotional intimacy also, but then there's also intellectual, spiritual, experiential, social, creative, conflict, aesthetic, and work intimacy. And all these just some of them sound like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Physical intimacy. That's, the old horizontal mambo, and also just the physical touch and just being able to love on somebody and give them a hug and kiss and things like that. Those are all kind of forms of physical intimacy. There's emotional intimacy where we're with each other. We can be intimate enough that we can share our emotions with other people. You don't want to share, all your emotions with your boss, because, well, one, it gets weird. Two, they may not appreciate the fact that you have those types of emotions at work. So there's times and places for everything, times for emotional intimacy and stuff. There's the intellectual. Are you and your spouse, or you and the other person that you're having a relationship with, are you able to share your intellectual knowledge with them, and they share with you, and y'all have a good intellectual relationship that way? If so, you've got a strong intellectual intimacy. Spiritual. that is also are you able to, do you and your spouse share the same type of spiritual knowledge, share the same type of spiritual experiences? Do y'all both go to the same church, or do you go to church and your spouse not go to church? Those different types of spiritual intimacy. Do you stay at home while your wife goes to church? And is she able to share her spiritual experiences with you, and so back and forth? Then we have experiential, which is what going out and having different experiences, lively experiences, living life together on purpose type of stuff. You have social. Are you and you and your spouse able to have a social connection out in public? Are you able to have those interactions with each other? And that's where a lot of the social intimacy comes at. And now we're down to creative intimacy. And this one is a little tougher to kind of break down, because right off the bat, you hear what the definition is and you're like, okay, because it's a little light. It's how creative are you with your spouse or with whoever you're having a relationship with? Because that is where y'all are able to come together and create something and be able to do that essentially as a single unit. Whether, you're doing karaoke together, creating music, or you're doing a woodworking project or writing a book together, these types of things. This is kind of a tough one. And I'm going to get to the real details of what my true thoughts about this type of intimacy are closer to the end. But what is this, from what I've been able to look at and see and understand, what this intimacy is about is it actually allows for closeness to actually happen, to be able to have that connection actually happen. Because you, and again, since I talk about relationships between men and women, you and your wife, are you able to work together for a common goal? Is the way I interpret what they're all saying. This is where y'all have the same type of a vision, and y'all both work together to achieve that one particular objective. Now, it's not precisely all in like a lockstep or anything like that. It's where you're having you may think that you're going to go, 2 miles straight down this road and make a left. And your wife's idea is, well, let's turn left, go down a mile, and then go 10 miles down the road. You're both going to get to the same spot, just not precisely exactly how you thought you were going to go. So there's a lot of give and take and thoughts being shared and things like that. And there's a lot of sharing, a lot of openness that comes about through creative intimacy, or way they view creative intimacy. It also requires you to tap into your imagination. Well, how are you going to get past whatever the obstacle is? If you happen to have one that you're snagging on as you're trying to achieve whatever the result is that you're trying to go. And so there can be some new ways of thinking, because you know that your spouse is probably not going to go for this particular route. Say, again, we're driving down the road. We're going to see a particular building in the next town, and how we get there can vary, right? So, and I know it doesn't quite line up with creativity. So, I mean, we could let's actually go with that. We're doing a clay bust of a person. All right. Now, this person could be whoever you want. Now, that's not one of the things that you and your wife would want to actually talk about, is as y'all are trying to sit down and figure out what this person's going to look like, you have to actually start making up your decision. Is it going to be a dude? Is it going to be a dudette? Is it going to be, is it going to be just a bust, or is it going to be just the head, or is it going to be a torso? What type of statue of statue that you're going to have. And as you go through and you're building this statue, y'all are coming across, maybe y'all decided y'all are going to do a woman, but your wife's like, well, I really am not comfortable about, designing the breasts on the bust. So, how far down do you go? Do you go just kind of right below, right above where the breasts start? Or do we've got weird thoughts, and this is kind of part of it, because it's one of the issues that you're going to run into is you're going to have to go through a mess. And that mess, when I say mess, it's not so much the ghosts, clay being smeared everywhere type of mess. It's more of the thoughts that you're having behind how you're going to achieve the results. Are you going to, like I was saying, how far down on the how much of a bust are you going to actually do? Is it just at the top of the shoulders? Are you going to get the shoulders? Who is it? Are you doing a clay bust of Mae West? Or are you doing a clay bust of hell, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another actor, of Tom Cruise. I don't know why his name just jumped in my head, but we'll go with that. Mae West or Tom Cruise, vastly different people. So, but anyhow, so y'all have to decide, is it dude? Is it dudette? Okay. Is it okay if it's a dude? Are we doing, are we doing Charlie Chaplin? Are we doing Tom Cruise? Are we doing Dustin Hoffman? Are we doing, are we doing somebody else? Are we doing the grandpa? Are we who is it that we're going to actually make this clay sculpture of? And so there's a lot of thoughts, and maybe it is going to be your uncle, and why does it have to be that particular uncle? And y'all are going to have your thought processes, and those thoughts are going to clash and not quite going to agree. Are you going to do a caricature of your uncle? Or are you going to do, a lifelike representation of your uncle? All these little thoughts and all these little decisions that are being made show up in our emotional reactions to the thoughts that we have about whatever it is. So maybe your wife wants to make a caricature of your uncle because she thinks his nose is really funny. She's always thought his nose is really funny. And that kind of upsets you. It's like, well, it's his nose. Who cares? I could have easily had that nose. Are you going to make fun of my nose when I get a little older? We have these types of thoughts, and the problems and the emotions that arise because of our thoughts can be a big hindrance when it comes to whatever creative process we're wanting to do. So you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to be doing stuff. And even when you're trying to build, y'all made the decision, you're going to do a sculpture of your uncle. You're going to do a bust that starts just below the shoulders, and you're going to do a lifelike sculpture. But as you're doing it, all of a sudden you're realizing, wait a minute, the ears aren't right. The hair is not parting correctly. His beard is nowhere near that long, and all these other things. And so you have to go through, and you're going to mess up as you're doing the process. You may even get around to where you got the head kind of put together, and then you realize this is not his head shape. And so you have to redo it, and you have to go through and rinse and repeat, and you're going to mess up many, many times. Are you okay with the fact that you're failing at whatever the project is at that time and moment? Most of the time, it comes to what our mess ups are and our failures are, depending on what it is. It may mean the world to us, or it may mean nothing. You have no problem missing the keyhole with your key. Why? Because you've missed the keyhole with the key many times. You've got the scratches on your door handle to show that you have missed, and you've scratched the paint around the keyhole. It happens, but you have done that enough that you know that you're eventually going to get the key into the hole, and you're going to be able to open your door. If you are putting your whole self-worth into the fact, can you get the key in at the first time, you're really going to struggle with that. You're going to put it in miss, and you're going to think, oh my God, I'm a horrible key inserter type of person. And so why am I even doing this? This is terrible. This is a whole waste of time. And you're going to have a meltdown just because you couldn't get the key in the hole. Well, the same way with whatever other project you and your wife are doing. Are you going to screw up on something? Yeah. Does it mean you're terrible at that particular thing? Possible. But what are you making that mess up mean? Are you making it mean that you can never get you'll never be a good sculptor of clay for the rest of your life because you can't quite get the head shape right? No, sometimes you're just going to have to try again and still not get it right, and try it again. And, oh, you got his cheeks too fat. So shave some. Oh, you took too much off. So you're going to have to apply a little more clay until you get the shape to what you like. But then you also have the fact that in the process, you've got two brains going on at once. You have not just yours, but you have your wife's thoughts about the process going on together. So she may actually see your uncle in a completely different manner. And so she may see that he's got not just thin cheeks, but they're actually slightly sunk in. And that little detail, you may have a problem with the way she wants to represent your uncle. Again, it's the thought. We're going to have a mess. Humans, we're amazing creatures, but when it comes to our emotions, we are crazy messy. And so you have to look, and you have to stop, and you have to examine, what does your thoughts mean? What thought are you having about your uncle? What thought are you having about your wife's thought about your uncle? And decide, okay, is this really something worth getting into an argument over? Why is that so important to you? Why is this particular little aspect that you're fighting over or arguing or just debating mean so much? So you have to be okay with the process. You're going to mess up. You're going to get it right eventually. Your wife is going to have her thoughts, and you're going to have to give and take. It's compromising, so that by the time you're done, it's going to look pretty close to being like your uncle, as you want. But there's also going to be elements of your wife in there too, and that she's done what she's wanted, and she's gotten her main ideas in as to who your uncle are. And so we have to just be okay with the process. It's the whole issue and process of creating and getting to the results is that you are examining your thoughts, examining who you think this thought represents. And are you going to accept it? Are you going to keep going, or do you have to stop, back up, and try again? And why do you have to stop, back up, and try again? Are you thinking that if you don't get this perfect, people are going to laugh you out of the house? If you don't get this perfect, is your uncle never going to talk to you ever again? Or are you just trying to show that you have the love for your uncle, that you're willing to put this much work into a clay bust of him? But another problem that you're going to run into with any project that you do with your wife, any type of form of creative endeavors, is you're going to have to feel the feels, man. You're going to get frustrated, and you're going to kind of stomp around, and you're going to have to accept the fact that it's not all in your power. The only things you can control is your thoughts and your emotions. And those are the only two things that you can control. Anything else is outside of your ability to control. You can try to coerce and manipulate other people's thoughts and actions to go along with yours, but they don't have to. And you have to be okay with the fact that they don't have to. And what are you making their emotion or their actions mean to you? Again, we take everything in our world so personally. So that's why those feels come in and start mixing around, because as you're doing the process of building your uncle's clay bust, you're going to have disagreements. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have downright fights and yelling matches with each other. You have to trust the process and be able to accept the fact that you're feelings are your emotions. They're not your wife's. So she's going to get angry at the fact that you snapped at her. But can y'all go through the process again? Go be okay with the process, but go through it and accept the fact that, yeah, we snapped at each other. I realized I was wrong. She realizes she was wrong. And y'all can come back together and fix that problem. If you can, great, awesome. You're going to get further down the road. You're going to have a better relationship with your wife because getting creative is able to allow you to face the different conflicts that you're running into, work through them, heal from them, and move on. And you will then also have a much stronger connection. But another great thing about the whole creative intimacy part and doing some type of project like carving a bust of your uncle is that you're going to find out that you're not so good at different aspects of the project. Maybe you don't really know how to line out where the eyes are supposed to go on this, which if I remember right, are supposed to be basically in the middle of your head. We always want to try to put people's eyes way up on their forehead, and it's in the middle of the head. And maybe your wife realizes that. So you've got limitations in what you're doing, and your wife can come in and help you have better skills because of what she happens to know. And the same applies with your wife. If there's things that she struggles with that you can do, you are actually able to come in and help her become better. So you get a little help from your spouse as you are doing these things. You're going to have perceived limitations that actually aren't even there. And you won't realize it until you have your wife and or spouse come about and go, hey, nobody thinks you're supposed to be that good. And so you are able to come through on the other side with a better understanding of, hey, who you are. But if you think you have to do it a particular way and it messes up, eventually what you're going to wind up having to do is you're going to find yourself having to eat a little bit of crow later on down the road. If you don't swallow your ego, because us guys, we do love to have our ego just get in the way of a lot of things. And it's not so much a fragile ego as what some folks like to tell us. It's just, we think we've got the idea down. And sometimes we're just a little too proud to admit that we may not know. And that's one of the great things about creating something. You're going to find out, yeah, you don't quite know just as much as you thought you did. And so you're able to come in and learn more about yourself, learn more about your spouse from doing this. So is creative intimacy an actual intimacy? My thoughts about this is no, it's not actually. I think it's more of just an extension of the experiential intimacy. I think you can have experiences and those experiences can draw you closer. Look at any guy who's ever gone through boot camp before. They had an experience, and those guys on the other side are closer and more together thanks to the fact that they have gone through the whole boot camp experience. And so the experience allows for a better, intimate means of knowing each other. And going through a creative process is just nothing more than another type of experience. So for whatever reason, whoever came up with the actual list of the 10 different types, having creative intimacy, I think they thought that having 10 different types of intimacy, I've seen as many as 15 different types of intimacy. I wasn't about to go through 15 weeks of different intimacies because each week we're looking at different types, because next week we're going to be looking at conflict intimacy and seeing what that is actually all about. That's going to be an interesting one. But I think it's just a kind of a little subset. It's just the part of the experience of going through the process of being creative. We do learn a lot about ourselves. We learn a lot about our spouse. We have a great experience and have better connection with each other when we actually do different experiences, one being creative. Maybe again, like we're creating a book, we're sculpting a bust of our favorite uncle. These all can be different things and mean different things to us. And so when you struggle with having a relationship with your wife, having different experiences helps us. And that experience can be, hey, let's sit down, let's write a book together. I don't know. It could also be just sitting down and growing a garden together. Just having the experience of going through something is actually what allows us to that experience. And those are different types of experiences are the glue that brings us as a couple closer together. And so whether it's creating something or it's just going to a museum, those experiences are what actually help us the most. Now, before I actually go, I wanted to say and give a huge shout out to Pod Home. And last week, whenever I was doing this show, like I said, I'd do this live, and Pod Home was able to listen, and he actually sent us a boost of 5,940 sats with the message of, "This hits home, Brian. Thanks for the insights." And I want to say thanks a lot, Pod Home. Thank you very much. That's actually, if I'm thinking about Barry from Pod Home, he is, and that's a good, if you want to start doing podcasting, Pod Home and do podcasting 2.0 type of podcasting. Pod Home is a great podcasting 2.0 compliant podcast host that you can use. He has his own ice cast so that you're able to actually do live broadcasts to Pod Home, and they'll actually set everything up so that the bat signal goes out and we're all live and ready, raring to go on the show. So you're able to get the signal and let you know that, hey, you can listen to us over on again, Podcast Guru or Fountain or Podverse. These are all different ways. If you want a new app, again, want a better app than using something like Spotify or even Apple, you can go to newpodcastapp.com and find podcast apps there. So guys, with that, I want to say thanks so much for listening. If you want help building your intimacy and you want to have a stronger relationship with your wife, you can always reach out to me. By doing so, go to relaxedmale.com. That's male as in a dude, relaxedmale.com/lovebirds. Love to be able to go through and sit down and see how we can actually improve your relationship with your wife. We can do this quite easily, quite amazingly easy, in a relatively little bit of time. All we have to do is look at what the actual problem is and see where we're straying at. So guys, with that, I want to say thank you very much again for listening. Y'all take care. Have a good rest of the week. And so till next week, catch you then. Bye.